one of them was probably my cousins when they were babies. I loved babies, and I loved to hold these little ones. I was very small when a lot of my cousins were born, and I remember one time when my Aunt Frances was outside hanging the laundry that I wanted to get the baby, and I was so small that my eyes just barely reached the edge of the mattress, so you can see how small I was. And I couldn't get on the bed because it was too high. So I remember pulling the blanket towards me, and I kept pulling the blanket towards me. My aunt was outside hanging the laundry, fortunately for me, otherwise she would have had a heart attack. Well, she almost did anyway. But I kept pulling it, and as soon as I got that baby far enough to where I knew he was gonna start coming over the edge, I was ready to catch him, and I caught him. I was very careful and very conscientious of what I was doing, that I had to be really careful. I took the baby in my arms with the blanket wrapped around him, half of it hanging on the floor, and I walked to the back door because I was going to show my aunt that I was holding the baby. I said, look, Frances, I got the baby. And I almost tripped, really, because part of the blanket was dragging, but I was very careful. I knew it was dragging. So as soon as I opened the door and I told her, I have the baby, her eyes got so big and wide with fear, and she says, don't move. Don't move. And I thought, what is she afraid of? I'm not going to drop the baby. I already got him, you know. She came right away and took him from my arms, and that was the end of that. She didn't get upset with me. That wasn't her way of doing things. Just as long as the baby was fine, and the baby was fine. So I love to take care of my younger siblings and my cousins because I was the oldest of the whole group of us, and I really felt a maternal instinct towards all of these children, that I took very good care of them. And if any of the neighborhood kids try to pick a fight with these little ones, they'd have me to deal with, because I was there to defend them to the end. I was telling one of the students outside a minute ago about this particular occasion where I was defending my little brother, who was only 5 years old at the time, was cajoling one of my older cousins and telling him, you can't hit me, because if you do, I'll tell my sister and she'll beat you up. Well, lo and behold, I said, yeah? I said, I'll tell you what, if a fight ensues here, you're the one who's going to get beaten up, so you better back off. So he never did that again. I could see then that I was defending him a lot because he was pulling these little pranks on. So he didn't do that afterwards. They're probably historical people, people who have changed the world, who have done different things. The biographies that I've read on them, I like Eleanor Roosevelt. I'm reading a book on her life right now. It's a volume 1. And she stands out a lot to me because I've read this book by Blanche Wiesen-Cook, who wrote 2 volumes on her life. And I have a quote that I want to share with you because this is what I really kind of stand for. I want to share, in a sense, with the world some of her words. She says, learning and living, but they are really the same, aren't they? There is no experience from which you can learn something, and the purpose, when you can't learn something. And the purpose of life, after all, is to live it to the utmost, to reach out without fear for newer and richer experience. You can do this only if you have curiosity and an unquenchable spirit of adventure. But the experience can only have meaning if you understand it. You can only understand it if you have arrived at some knowledge of yourself. A knowledge based on deliberately and usually painful acquired self-discipline, which teaches you to cast out fear and frees you for the fullest adventure of life. Not much had been really written on the positive side for Eleanor, but this writer, she went through archives to find out a lot of information about her, things that had never been written, because some people have perceived her as in a different way, you know, and there were letters that were written from her to friends and from friends to her, and this woman found a lot in the archives. And so she has these 2 books written on them. I like the story of our President Eisenhower, because he was commander-in-chief during World War II. He really had a job on his hands to be over all of the whole branches, in a sense, when the war started. The Army, the Navy, the Marines, everyone had their own commanders and leaders, but he had to oversee the plan as to how it was going to work out and how they needed to all come together. That was a pretty big task. The thing about Eleanor, which this really stood out to me, is that she says, "I honor the human race. When it faces life head on, it can almost remake itself." I thought about that and I thought, wow, how profound. You know, I'd like to see us remake ourselves into a better people. And we can. We can. If we change ourselves and do the best that we can to be the best people that we can be, that's where we start. Because you can't change the world. You can only change yourself. But by changing yourself, you start something. And that something can grow bigger and bigger and better. My own thoughts on this too are, which I wrote, how you think is already defining the kind of man or woman you are and will become. The choices you make will be part of that experience. Learn to live with the choices you make and make them better, especially when there are some choices you can't change. There will be a lot of choices that you can't change. You set out grand things in your mind, what you want to do, what you want to achieve, and when you don't achieve it, sometimes you feel defeated. And if you let that defeat you, a lot of other things are going to defeat you. You've got to decide for yourself that you're not going to let it get you down, that you're going to do the best that you can with what you do have and what you can do. And those things will lead you to bigger and better things, believe it or not, because nobody starts out wanting to be a leader or wanting to be better or to do this or that. It just will come naturally. There are those of you who are going to be leaders. You're not going to know until you're there what you've achieved. And then you'll look back and say, wow, I did this. It'll be something to be proud of. Your children will be proud of you. Your parents, if they're still alive, you know, your brothers, your sisters, they'll look up to you for your achievements. And you can encourage them that they can do it too. And if they don't feel that they can, because some of them aren't going to be able to, you can still be there for them to help them through life. Love them and help them along the way. And help others too as you go along.
Hi, my name is Jose Lopez.
Hi, my name is Angelina Magana.
Hi, my name is Lorena Cowich.